User in your channel started recording.
Sorry. So we just wanted to start off with that.
Right. Okay.
So we figured as a start, we can talk just a little bit about the point of HAB, what we wanted to get from it, where the game is, and then we can talk a little bit more about questions that you may have, and let's just talk about Hawken and the Advanced Battalion. So one of the things I know that are definitely some more some bigger topics is we want to start off really quick by talking about what the Advanced Battalion actually was, what the purpose of it is, and I know there's been a lot of, especially a lot of discussion and questions about the speed of the game, and then also progression. So we definitely want to talk about those topics and make sure that you can understand where we're coming from. So what I just want to start off with is saying that the purpose of Advanced Battalion is exactly what we were able to get out of it. The build that you were able to take a look at, it was something that's not intended to go to live. It's something that is still very much actively in development. We work really hard on it every day, and changes are checked in every day. And the build that we have right now is, weeks different than what you were just been able to play. So everything that you've been playing doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's intended for final, but we wanted to throw some things out there. It's a place for us that we want to be able to test new things, to be able to throw out new modes, to be able to test out new maps, all of that before we want to release in the general public. Heck, it'll be a great opportunity to just do some wacky, crazy stuff too, to see what works. We want it to be a playground, for a fun playground for just to see what works with Hawken and what doesn't. So that ultimately is the goal, and it is not representative necessarily of what'll be what we intend to go live with our next big update. So I want to go around the table really quickly. I'm sitting the closest to the mic, so I think I think everyone can hear me. So I'll just sort of go around the table really quick. If everyone just sort of say your name and say hello, so everyone knows what voice to associate with which name.
This is Micah and Zamboni Chaos.
Hey guys, this is Chris, Dewey on the forums. And let us know if you have trouble hearing any of us.
Hey, I'm Dave. I'm a bit quiet if any of you guys are zooming on there, but yeah.
Any problem hearing any of us?
Dave was a little quiet.
Dave is a little quiet. Okay. Well, when Dave says something, we'll poke him with a stick or light him on fire or something. Okay.
All right, so I was to the understanding that we're gonna. Yeah, I didn't understand Dave either. There was a little bit of distortion. But to start off, I was to the understanding that you were going to basically clarify reasoning behind some of the most recent changes, especially vertical progression and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely are. So one of the things that we can talk about is to start off with is the speed of the game.
Well, user was your channel.
How do I turn that off? I keep trying to turn those sound notifications off, and it doesn't seem to work.
Thanks, Sam.
Okay, so Jason's trying to figure out how to disable some notifications here. So yeah, what we wanted to talk about first of all is just clarification on the progression system, and I guess we'll do that first, and then we'll get into speed. Basically, just give you guys an idea of why the progression system is like it is, and why it's kind of not going anywhere, and what we're changing that addresses your feedback and hopefully makes the game something you want to continue playing. So loud and clear, we've heard vertical progression is something you guys aren't particularly happy with. So let me just explain why vertical progression is in there. Basically, we do exit surveys on for all the players that stop playing the game. And our main concern right now is retention of players. We have a lot of players trying out the game, but very few stick around for a meaningful length of time. And on these exit surveys, we get a lot of data into why that is. And one of the biggest reasons is just there's a lack of depth to the game. There's a lack of attachment with a lot of players to their mechs, and just reasons to come back to the game and keep playing. They think it's fun, but there's nothing for them to return to really like feel a sense of accomplishment about. And really, that's the main reason vertical progression is something we kind of decided on, was creating an attachment to mechs and depth to each mechs, and giving people a reason to try out different mechs and want to keep playing the game for a longer time. So I guess that's the main reason. There's other data we have that just points to you guys are very, very hardcore competitive players, and for you, the competition is the fun you have, but that's not the case with a very large number of players that have played hockey. And we want to try to appease both sets of players. We're not ignoring you with this system. That's why we're looking at your feedback and figuring out how we can make you guys happy and still address the concerns we have with newer players leaving the game. So
User joined your channel.
we'll just go over some of the changes we're already making to the vertical progression system first, and then I guess we could do some Q&A on that first, and then maybe come back to speed and some of the other issues, or if you want us to just go straight ahead into addressing.
User was moved to your channel.
Let's do a Q&A on the vertical progression. I think questions.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let us give you a quick overview of the changes we're making compared to what you played in Tableau.
User was moved to your channel.
Jason was very unsuccessful in disabling the notifications.
I disabled all of them. Do I actually have to reboot the client for that?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. I do?
You do? Okay.
Oh, boy.
I'll do it.
All right, well, we'll screw it. Doesn't matter. All right, so
User was moved to your channel.
I think it's going to matter. You might want to reboot the client.
All right, all right, we'll be right back.
In 2 seconds.
User disconnected from your channel.
Be right back. Actually, fuck. Yeah, I'll be right back.
User disconnected from your channel. User was moved to your channel.
That works. All right. Are we still here now?
User joined your channel.
Yeah, you're here.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
Thanks. Okay. All right, let's try that again. Chris, as you were.
All right, so changes to vertical progression, things we're listening to you guys about and actively improving based on your feedback. Well, first of all, just the amount of power progression through the tier system. We toned that way back. We removed the weapon upgrades. Now that weapon upgrade system was kind of there as a placeholder in the version you saw it as. What we want to do is have that be more of a side grade system or a more interesting choice system, and what it ended up being, just because of time constraints, is more of a straight port of the weapon upgrades from open beta. We kind of just ported those upgrades over for the time being, kind of in haste to get that system in there. So it was probably a bad choice for us to leave that in there for you guys to test, but we took it out. The item restriction and internal slot system, those restrictions are gone. So really what's left as far as power progression from tier 1 to tier 5 is the tuning abilities, which is really more of a customization thing, because you have all your points from your pilot progression. It's just you're limited on what you can switch around in there. that and the ability upgrades. So there has to be some kind of incentive to want to get to tier 5, and what we want to do is make that more cosmetic changes and side grades. I know you guys kind of heard that before, but it really is still the plan.
And something that we have now that we didn't have before is not only getting to the end of that, there's the actual visual, there's the visual element of going through progression, so you can actually change out the skins of your mech, and then also is, of course, the rewarding of a mech as well. That's something that we didn't have before. And a global item as a result also. So that the thought is also by putting the points in the pilot level, you can get a new mech and you can basically start over without feeling like you're starting over. You still have all the points that you've earned, and you still have the ability to put an item in there that you may have unlocked from a previous mech progression.
So it's also worth pointing out that right now, the build the next build we're gonna release, the difference in kind of perceivable power increase between a tier 1 and a tier 5 mech is less than the current difference in open beta between it's significantly less between
level 1 and 25.
Yeah, base level and a 25 level mech. So that's actually an improvement, and we're just working on keeping the incentive and variety in between those tiers to make people want to still max out their mech. So did you guys want to add anything else about the changes to feedback? Did I forget anything before we kind of go to Q&A on that?
I guess the reason why there's tiers because of the pricing.
So that was also something that that was added. Is part of the reason for the tiers now is what we had before was kind of an all or nothing situation. We had some mech trials, sure, but you could try a mech, but you couldn't really equip it with anything. You couldn't really, you still really couldn't call it your own. You had to buy the whole thing, and the price was pretty hefty. You could try it out, and maybe you don't even like it. So part of the thought with changing that to the tiers as we have now is the entry point for a lot of those mechs is much, much, much lower. So you can actually get in there, you can start playing with the mech, you can actually buy items for it. It is yours, and we will hopefully see a lot more variety on the battlefield with mechs, because that barrier to entry has been lowered considerably versus all or nothing. And there's also a lot of hesitation on the part of players of dropping that kind of hockey credits on a mech. Maybe they will like it, maybe they won't. But now with that reduced price, they can play it for a little while, and if they like it, great. And if not, then they sort of pay for as much time as they want to spend to it with credit. So that was a big motivation also for that new system.
Pop in with a suggestion. There's a suggestion for the offline deathmatch mode that you're putting in. There's a suggestion to allow unlimited customization, no restrictions whatsoever with the offline mode, so people could test and try stuff that they might want.
That's actually that's a really good idea. We have other plans where we're going to do a little bit of like a I don't want to say like a shooting gallery, but basically like a test area in order to test a lot of that stuff out. But that's actually a really good idea to try doing that in an offline team deathmatch. We should. I'm going to make a note of that.
Okay. All right. So are we ready to transition into Q&A for this topic?
Yep, go for it.
Okay. So B-Man has posted a question in the chat concerning customization, accomplishment, and depth. Why do you suggest that those are only attainable with vertical progression?
We're actually sorry for the quiet. We're actually just reading. We're just reading the question here. 1 second.
I see.
Yeah, no.
So part of that, what we've been talking about, what we're talking about right now is the newest build that you guys haven't played, not the changes we're talking about are mostly something you haven't seen, so we are referencing new numbers. And maybe it's best to talk about speed right now, just to get it kind of touches on
That question.
on this question. And I can come back to Dean's question after that kind of perspective up there. So yeah, I'll just go straight into speed and then come back to
User was
Dean's
moved to
question.
your channel.
Okay, good.
Okay, so speed, we understand you guys aren't happy with the speed.
Apparently.
We see one person is happy with the speed.
There's an overwhelming majority.
Okay, so by far this is the thing we got the most. You guys are most in agreement about speed by far over anything else that we got feedback on. So yes, dodge cooldown. We hear you guys loud and clear. The game will not be slowed down like it was in Hab 1. We're going back more in line with the numbers in open beta, and in fact, a lot of things are going to be getting faster. Dodge cooldown, we're pulling back to be. I have actually some exact numbers if you guys are interested in that. Right now, the current build we have, the numbers do in dodge cooldown do vary from mech class to mech class, and it's something this is part of the testing. We want to try things out and get feedback, and we're open to changing things. So we're open to the idea of having base dodge cooldown values, which it sounds like a lot of you guys kind of want, just to level the playing field. I think it's been called like the great equalizer, that dodge cooldown. So that's something we definitely hear you on. We're going to try, just as a way to kind of test things out, differentiating different mechs from each other. We're going to try having some different values on that for our next test, but it's nothing crazy. And the base values are very close to what they are in open beta. And with tuning, you can get quite a few mechs actually have faster cooldown than the open beta values.
Yeah.
So, for example, let me just throw out an example for you. The Berserker, in open beta, all the light classes had a 1.25 second dodge cooldown. Hab 1, that changed for the Berserker to 1.9, almost 2 seconds. Right now, in the build we have, the base value for a tier 1 Berserker is 1.7, which is higher than the open beta value, but you're able to tune it down to 1.2. The Infiltrator, you can actually get down to 1.1 dodge cooldown, 1.1 seconds, which is faster than open beta.
And you're talking about the current build.
In the build you guys have, these are new numbers that you haven't seen.
Okay.
When I say current build, I mean
Like
internally.
Yeah, internally.
Not Hab 1 or even Hab, yeah. So that's just an example of some of the Scout has a dodge cooldown of 0.8 is what we're testing, and these numbers are, like Jason said, we're trying some wacky things, and that might be going way too far, but we're just trying things out, and that's what the part of the Hab is about. So that 0.8 is an example to show you how seriously we're taking your consideration, your feedback, and we're pulling it far in the other direction to see where that goes. And it might sound like we don't have clear direction, but it's all part of listening to the community. And
right. And a lot of times already, we may go to an extreme. We'll just it's sort of like we with the new system, each individual subclass can have its own cooldown, which can add some variation and definitely change up the roles on the battlefield, which is what we want. Some more definition to those subclasses. And in the what's in the beta right now, that's live, is a lot of those mechs are grouped together more by class rather than subclass. So not only did we play with some of those numbers and make it more unique to each subclass, but we also sort of drastically swung one way as far as like the base value of all of those, of each one of those classes. So we do that on a pretty regular basis. It's just not something that you see, because we can't really do that live. So every single day, actually, there's some sort of value changes that we're testing out. We've just never been open and visible about that stuff before.
Yeah, so that, you're right, this kind of stuff is hard to balance, and it could be that universal dodge cooldown speed is the way to go. We're testing that. So we definitely have heard your complaints about dodge cooldown, and it's not something I would worry about. We realize dodge is kind of the crux of the game. It's part of what makes Hawken unique and fun, and if we nerf that, the game isn't enjoyable, and we agree with you on that. So also regarding speed, I think less people have problems with general movement speed, but one thing we're also going to improve is acceleration. Right now, you kind of ramp up to a walk and then ramp up again to a run, which we wanted it to feel like you're in a giant machine, but it's not fun. So we're going to just kind of smooth out acceleration and increase the overall stop to run time.
It's like stop, because there's stop to walk, or there's start to walk, and then walk to run.
Yeah.
So we'll probably reduce the amount of time to go from stop to walk. That's at least what we're going to try.
So that, I guess that's kind of our update on speed.
I'd like to ask something that Kirzan said. He asked a question regarding numbers. Now, you're willing to tell us these numbers now, but why do we not have these numbers on live? Why did we not get these numbers at the beginning of the HAB?
So I can take some of that. So in all honesty, part of the HAB, because we had so many changes. We had UI changes. We had things that we know about because we've been testing it every day. We don't know. We wanted to hear what was confusing, what wasn't. There's so much that goes into the changes, and we've been working at a pretty high velocity. So getting some external feedback on that is really important. So that's why we didn't even start out with patch notes. We started out basically with simply just known issues, and there were a lot of them. There were a lot of known issues, and a lot of that stuff is checked off and fixed. So we right now we're, as we've mentioned on the forums, we're entering sort of that B phase of HAB. And I think everyone here is in HAB 1 basically. So that's something that you'll be coming back to, and we're going to be a lot more visible with those numbers. We are still not ready to share those on live yet, and most of our stance has been on that because they do change all the time. So we want to give more visibility on that because we want to be able to get your help on balancing. So we actually have had a method to some of that madness, even though it may not have seemed completely clear. But the next time everyone is back on and sort of, HAB, as you guys know it, is sort of back on, I should say back online, we'll have numbers that will, at least the current numbers that we'll be posting as well. Oh, and I saw a question here, is in open beta, not in, oh, okay, so never mind.
Let's go back to B-Man's question now. I want to, can you scroll down?
Let me scroll up the back.
I forgot it. It was like 8 paragraphs.
Oh, fiddlesticks. Oh, here it is. Concerning customization, accomplishment, and depth, why do you suggest that those only attainable with vertical progression? Also, why do you keep implying that tuning is just a customization system when it is based both on mech and pilot level? Why do you say the difference is smaller when VL or F movement improvements are so much larger? Is this a reference to the new numbers that we cannot see?
So, yes, it's a reference to the new numbers we cannot see. And one thing I think we skipped over about why vertical progression and speed were the way they were in half one and why we changed things so much. It is a way, the whole pilot level system, progression of the pilot level system is a way for us to guide new, less skilled players up to the point where you guys are at. You guys are all, you know, the best hockey players. You're probably really good FPS players, all of you, any FPS. A lot of people that try the game aren't, and we want to try to guide them to the level where they are good FPS players. And part of that was slowing down the beginning of the game. A lot of feedback we got was it's too crazy, it's too chaotic, I don't know what's going on, I get destroyed and I can't even see what's going on screen, and I don't know that I'm a sitting duck, and all this feedback we're trying to address by making the game easier to play at the beginning, but not punishing the core competitive players by having the same experience at the end that you guys are used to or that you guys want to see.
But we went a little too far.
We went too far, and that was the idea, was to go pull it back as far as we can, see how it feels, and then bring it back in line.
So the more people we have in the game, the better, obviously. And part of a problem that we tried to solve is with the pilot level. So when we actually, match people, we get people into matches, we take MMR into account, but we also take pilot level into account. And part of why we take pilot level into account is because it's a representation of how much experience you've actually earned in the game. So by the time you reach, whatever X level it is, that pretty much is a guarantee that you have, an X, X number of mechs up to an X amount of tier. So that pretty much guarantees by matching with people of a similar or close to level that you're playing not only people of a similar skill, but also a similar amount out of equipment. And by moving a lot of the power or some of the options and like the tuning points, some of that power to the pilot progression versus the mech progression, you can still have players that are at level 30 get a new mech and still deck it out the way that they are, the way that they want to, without being punished for starting over. So that's where I wanted to throw that in.
So a lot of questions are being asked. How does that explicitly necessitate vertical progression?
Sorry, we're trying to actually just read the comments so we can answer.
We haven't done a great job of answering Demon's question, which is why I'm still focusing.
Yeah, but how does that explicitly necessitate vertical progression? How do you deal with players who have a high level but aren't good?
If they're high level but they aren't good at the game, it sounds like they don't really care because
they're high level.
They got to the high level. There's still matchmaking to rank them based on MMR. The pilot level is just making sure that they're matched against mechs with the same power level or power progression. So I'm not concerned about high level players that aren't good at the game because they obviously like the game, and if they're having fun with the game and they're still playing the game, that's great.
Go ahead.
Let's get someone rein in questions but why, AJK, all right, why is vertical progression necessary? Well, we kind of already went over that it adds something for players to work for and make progress on, and meaningful progress, not just a visual change, which based on data that we've gotten from surveys looking at, buying analytics for what's purchased and who purchases what and when players leave the game. The visual customizations don't keep players in the game. It might keep you guys in the game, which awesome, but there's a very large group of players that leave the game because there's no reason for them to come. There's no depth to it for them to come back with, and that's what visual vertical progression helps with. It's depth and a feeling of accomplishment that is meaningful in the game. And we dialed that back based on your feedback, but there's some elements of it still there, and it's gonna stay.
I'm going to interject here just with some key points that I don't mean to interrupt Broken Record, but I don't mean to offend there either. There are people asking the same question over and over again. And we understand why you're doing the vertical progression. However, there are methods that can be achieved through like a more horizontal system, like what Team Fortress 2 does, for example, with item drops and random achievements, and not random, but achievements and whatnot. Hawken has already implemented the achievement system, but what about cosmetic item drops that could give people incentive to play and make their mech look cooler? Not stuff you can buy, but stuff you just earn through playtime.
That's something. No, I'm sorry. What was that?
I'm just saying that it seems like you guys are using a vertical progression system as a means to give players incentive and depth. And that may not necessarily be the best course of option, because you can do that in other areas that don't directly correlate to power. Like, vertical progression would be amazing, and I don't think there would be any complaints if it was cosmetically based.
I kind of just went over that. The reason is you guys are saying that, but the data we have suggests that cosmetics alone are not keeping players interested in the game for any meaningful length of time. It's not enough reason for a lot of the players that stop playing Hawken.
The current cosmetic implement, though, is you buy it and then you instantly have it. You don't really have to grind for anything. You don't have to just buy it outright. And there's no other way to achieve those cosmetics apart from purchasing them. And I think there is a definite. There are other means to go about giving people cosmetics and the opportunity to change things.
And you're right. And that's why we've added the progression skins into the tiers, and we plan to do more of that. You also unlock some other visual customizations through tiers and pilot level. So that is in there, and that's kind of what we're leaning towards more. But there's still a group of players that have shown to us that they want more depth in the leveling of their mech. They want to feel like they're gaining some sort of power.
Okay.
I don't really know what else to say about that, because
it's fine. That's more. Wanted to know, or at least I can speak for myself saying that. Let's move on to the next topic, because this is getting. I don't want to stick just on this.
Was there another question on that?
With regards to vertical progression, I think we're just going to move on to the next topic.
Okay.
Enough has been said. Going back to movement, I have a specific question. Let me put it in chat.
Okay.
And this is some of this you've already addressed, namely the dodge cooldown and whatnot. It's clear that you are willing to lower that value and test it, which is great. But yes, movement is a core function of Hawken, and while many players have expressed discontent with regards to, I'm talking new players now, with regards to how fast the game is, a large portion of your current player base is here because they love the movement. So if you tone it down too much, you do risk losing that player base. Or at least part.
Do you mean as new players coming in that kind of share your values and your outlook on the game, that we risk losing those new players? Because we kind of already addressed that the game for level 30 pilots is not getting slower.
Okay. I was mainly about the current player base that you have right now. It seems that from our builds, at least, the game seemed like it was getting slower, and that's why there was a little bit of confusion. But from
your build was slower, and we made changes. You guys hated it, and we recognize that, and it's not going to be slow for you guys in the future.
I just want to clarify there. So let's move on to the next topic now.
Might be easier actually. What's the next question? You might wanna...
Well, like 85,000 questions have scrolled by that.
I can speak to Hobo's question right there about increasing communication and transparency. Part of the whole reason I was transferred from the Seattle office down here to the Pasadena office was to help increase that transparency. When I accepted this position, I was under the impression that I had more people to work with to help accomplish that goal, and right now it's only me, and I think it's an awesome challenge, and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing here. So I am still learning. I'm still working on increasing that communication, but that's the reason I'm here. That's the reason they brought me down here, and that's really all I care about at this point. So I know while communication might seem like it's lacking or might not be as frequent as you guys might be used to or may want, I promise you that that's my goal, and that I'm going to continue to work to make sure that communication is frequent and clear, and just everyone's happy with what the frequency of what we're talking about.
And and I made a post about this recently too. A lot of our efforts did shift to have. It was something that we'd been working on for a while to get support for. It wasn't something that all of a sudden we could magically do just because of the streams that we work in and because of how database management works. So launching that was actually a pretty big deal for us because it's something that we've wanted for a while to have that playground. So that took up a lot of our resources, and we did focus a lot of our outward face to those forums to review the feedback, to go over all of that, to apply, but we certainly need to, we're not going to forget about everyone else in live. So I'm going to try to balance that out a little bit more, so everyone is feeling as much love as we can give.
There are some neat suggestions that I think should be taken into consideration. If you read Fury Monster's question regarding the training and tutorials, we could move on to that as our next topic.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's an awesome idea and something we want to do. We just haven't had time to implement or work on anything like that right now. The co-op bot destruction mode that you guys haven't had a chance to play yet, but it's going to be in one of the upcoming HAB tests, is sort of along those lines, where you can play with your friends against bots, and it's see how far you can get through the waves. So we're kind of starting down that path, but there's so many other things we need to work on and fix on the game that it's not a top priority.
But co-op is.
The co-op is a top priority.
It is. I mean, we're putting on the last sort of coat of paint on it. We've been playing it a lot lately just to get it done, and it's shaping up to be pretty fun. So
it's part of our push to give new players something to do besides get slaughtered.
And you can earn HC and XP by doing it. So even if players just wanted to do nothing but play co-op, they can certainly do that.
That's very cool. Yeah, the opening up PvE will definitely bring in a lot more players, I think.
Yeah, and we decided to keep the offline, like the TDM, so people don't earn HC with that. They don't earn XP because the intention is really just for people to get their feet wet and kind of in a more real kind of situation against bots and on a real map. So that's something that could be pretty easily exploited. So keeping it offline is intended just for training, but that's why we have co-op, is to give some people something that they can play with their friends with and just blow stuff up.
One of the other things, since all of these new features are being implemented, I'd like to formally address the concerns regarding server stability. It seems that everything is handled by the server. You can notice this when you go into a Mayhem server, and pings are substantially higher for everyone involved. I think that's because the servers are stressed. Does Hawken have any plans to move towards a client-side based system to reduce server stress?
So a few things on that. First of all, the Mayhem servers were originally spun up as tests, as sort of stress tests. So the very fact that some stress can happen is actually part of what is part of the intention of that. The reason why we keep server authority on a lot of things is a lot of that is for security reasons, especially since we're dealing with finances, especially since we're dealing with it's very detailed. We keep numbers on the server, we keep values, we keep a database, we keep weapon info, there's a lot of stuff that has to have server priority or authority, over the client to help reduce people taking advantage of the game and exploiting. So just purely by design and for security reasons, for everyone's benefit, we have to keep a lot of that server authoritative.
Are there more efficient means of implementing checks? I don't know much about the Punk Buster, but I know that's a factor. There could be.
Punk Buster helps in certain areas, but not necessarily everything. One of the reasons is you'll see like this Steam sometimes I think runs into issues. They have the utilities that'll just unlock all the achievements for you, and that's because it's not server authoritative. And since we have rewards for that, if it's kept client side, people would be able to get into that stuff really, really easily. So, I mean, that's just an example, but even Valve has some issues with that. If they had, credits or actual monetary value attached to their achievements, they'd probably keep that server side as well.
Right. Okay. I see. Okay. Next topic, unless anybody has anything to say on that.
I know. I will throw out this there as an extra bullet point. So I know there's also been a lot of discussion brought around ping and latency. So I just wanted to speak on that really quickly. We know that the reports are out there. The problem is it seems inconsistent as to not only the areas, but the users and regions. It would be a lot easier to reproduce and get a direct answer on something if it was 100%, but it's not something that we're seeing 100%. And by our investigations, we're still trying to figure out why that is. So I started up a thread in the bug section, which I'll probably turn that into a sticky just to get some, just to try to get some additional information, because I've talked with network engineers, our network engineer here, another engineer, the platform engineer, and there isn't a lot of reason that we can actually see what might be causing that. So it might be something that's regional. We're in investigation, but that's not something that we obviously want for the game. We just need to figure out what the actual problem is first.
Okay. Okay, now I think majority of people in chat want to transition to tuning or customization discussion.
Okay. Sure thing.
The current way that tuning is set up is somewhat questionable. I understand that the intention was to give Max a separate feel, but there are major balance concerns with that. And if there was a completely individualized tuning system, Max would have a legitimate individualized feel. But as it stands, I can name 6 mechs that share suspensions with one another. The Scout and Raider have the same exact build. It just, with some tuning, like the boost thrusters and aerodynamics being so beneficial, it seems a little unfair that some mechs get it and others do not. Unbalanced as well.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't hitting the button. Sorry.
Scout doesn't have aerodynamics anymore, but those values are like part of the balance things between the different systems and stuff that we need to figure out. Like trying to figure out good values where like it's more of a tougher decision to choose one over the other. That's what we're trying to get to right now.
I think some of the feedback we've gotten in the past from people on the forums has been defining the class rules and giving people a reason to play one mech versus the other. Right now, we kind of people tune the same way for every mech, and it's in the current tuning system and HAB, it's still kind of like that. But there seems to be a division amongst players, even on forums, between people wanting, I think Zacius, you want total freedom and interchangeable tuning, all the mechs can have all the options and you get to pick what you want. We're also hearing from another group of people that want limited choices in the tuning, but more meaningful choices that differentiate the classes. And it's hard to kind of reconcile that different feedback without making one side or the other unhappy.
I think if there were more options available as a whole, then the individualized tuning and the specific mech tuning would be great. Like, for instance, if a Rocketeer had spread decrease during hover state to complement its aerodynamics, then it would have a little more depth to that. But at the same time, give me one second. I lost my train of thought. Does anybody in chat have something to say on that? Oh, sorry. Yes, I got it now. There is an optimal tuning build, it seems, for every mech, and that doesn't really promote customization. That just pigeonholes people into taking this certain build that's better than this one, simply because they don't have any other options. Like, who's going to take the radar on a scout, over boost thrusters that directly increase speed? That's
you're gonna hate us, but can you repeat that? We weren't able to hear that really well.
Okay, so there seems with both live and the current HAB build, while you've individualized tuning options, there are completely useless options for certain mechs, and there are options that are almost mandatory. For instance, on the Scout, nobody is going to take radar over the other options like fuel generator, walk speed and run speed, as well as acceleration increase, and boost thrusters. Just the amount that you gain from radar is almost negligible compared to those. So what I'm mainly saying is that there seem to be optimal builds, and there really isn't much customization with this new customization system.
Well, I mean, no matter what your options are within the tuning system, they could be completely varied and crazy and different. There's going to be an optimal build that people find, and they're all going to stick with that one build, all the people who want that optimal build. Not to dismiss your point, but it's kind of a problem that's always going to be there because things are impossible to perfectly balance. But let me ask you guys this question. Would you prefer that these stats that you guys, and I agree, you say are kind of must-haves, things like health and speed, dodge cooldown, would you prefer that those things kind of automatically level with your pilot level behind the scenes, and then the choices you get in the tuning area are completely different and less obvious and more interesting?
Yes. I think I can say yes unanimously for pretty much everybody here. That way, we can put suggestions up and you can have tuning options that don't necessarily give you direct power, but they allow you to do different things, much like some of the internals that we're talking. And I want to transition to that topic next.
The kind of direction we want to go with this is having different tuning options for different classes to completely differentiate the classes, which goes against kind of what I think, Zacius, what you're suggesting. If those other stats are behind the scenes, like I suggested, would you, actually that's an idea you guys have on the forums, I'm just reiterating it. Would you be more open to the kind of more class-specific tuning options?
Very much so, yes. If the options were not like a dodge cooldown being in tuning, if that was just standard, then you could open up options to individualize mechs for specific class roles without giving them direct power.
Yeah. It's good to see so many people are in agreement on that. It makes it easier for us to take that information and do something with it.
Right.
User joined your channel.
Like, for example, for the Scout, I was talking about a radar tuning option so for mechs like the Scout, with its description is that it's meant to get in and out of combat very quickly without kind of being seen. So maybe the radar could reduce its what's the word? When you pop up on the radar, it's detectability. Signature. Radar signature, there we go. Fury Monster recommended that idea, I think. And so the more points you put into it, say somebody has to look at you for 2 to 3 seconds before you pop up on the radar. You don't pop up on the radar nearly as far away as you would without it. I don't know if I worded that properly, but... And another thing I want to ask is, how much of our suggestions and recommendations do you really take in? And it seems like you guys are doing a great job of taking everything in and responding and trying to meet us halfway at least. But how much would you permit us to help you create new features and make new internals and all that?
I can speak to that. We're always listening. We're always listening and want to know the feedback. It was no small effort to get Hab up and going, and the whole purpose of doing that was to get feedback, and also part of why part of it's closed out and there's an NDA in place, and that a lot of those things give us the flexibility to try wonky stuff and see how people react to it. So I would love. I saw the link that go up there about tuning ideas. I definitely want to take a look at that. Take a look at that link, and then also for internal suggestions as well. Always open to suggestions. We're not closed off from it. We may have to, we may not be able to take them all, but we'll certainly seriously consider good, constructive comments and feedback. There's no question. From when we started Hab and where the build is right now, a good number of those changes are a direct result of what we were hearing from the community.
Yeah, we want your ideas, and we look at them, and some of the things in the game are results of ideas from the community. The internal slot system, some of the internals like the Air 180 and Dodge were things we heard people wanted from the community. So yeah, we look at those kind of ideas, and we want you guys to continue giving those to us.
Excellent. But now I'd like to transition to internals here, unless somebody in chat has questions for this specific topic.
I saw one really quick here on the firing range. Probably missed it, but we have some ideas for that on how to do that. I know there's some topics of maybe using the offline team deathmatch for that. We have some ideas that we've been throwing around because I'd love for people to be able to just try mix out really quick. Yeah.
If you're familiar with Call of Duty, I hate bringing this up, but I used to play. If you're familiar with Call of Duty Black Ops, where I think it was Black Ops, where in the beginning there was like a range where you go through and try to complete this like firing range as quickly as possible, and then it kept a tally of your record. So you go through, you eliminate as much as you possibly can. You don't hit friendlies. It was Modern Warfare 2 or 3. Okay, Curzon knows. I'll post a video on the forums. And you could. Is that ringing a bell?
Well, I think I've seen that in games. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think Call of Duty 4 had that too, didn't it? Yeah, Modern Warfare had that. Run through, hit the targets as fast as possible. I would love. This is not a promise. This is what I would love to see. I'd love us to for you in the main menu just to be able to hit trial, and then the UI just goes away, and you are trying that mech that's highlighted. Like the main menu is like the shooting gallery. So that's the kind of stuff that we're throwing around, and would love to and would love to have. But that just takes some time. But that's the easiest way, I think, to eliminate any friction for people to be able to just try anything out and just jump into an arena where basically that trial area is the main menu. So that sounds cool. That's the stuff we're thinking about. It just priorities, right?
Everybody drank. So now let's transition to, I think, internals are a huge topic. I want to start by saying, when you made the announcement on the cockpit broadcast before the invites for the AB went out, you said specifically, we are switching internals over to a lot of these new internals you'll see will allow you to do different things. And like the air dodge, the Air 180, for example, that adds a considerable amount of depth to the game. And I think that should be emphasized more than a lot of the percentage-based internals we've been seeing with the current HAB build. When you modify direct damage or just direct health for killing somebody, or direct movement speed, you gain movement speed after killing somebody, that's just a % change. But when you give the player more options and more abilities, that increases depth and really gives the game a unique, for an FPS at least, that would give it a unique advantage.
Correct. I'll let Dave sort of speak to this too, but we have a lot more internals that are not in the build that you are playing as well. So what I said certainly was true. There's a lot of different ones that we're trying out that have a lot of different abilities. So Dave, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so it is just the start of it, and a lot of them are just kind of to cater to certain play styles and stuff, and it's still pretty early because like the whole system is pretty new. So that's one of the things that we could actually use a lot of like you guys' ideas and input and stuff, or like just giving us ideas of like new things we could do with it to make it more interesting and stuff like that.
I mean, we have a list of like 40 or 50, well, maybe not 40. Yeah, about 40 or so of the ones that we've been playing with and playing with the ideas. So it has all kinds of variety of stuff. So I think
Great.
I think that system has a lot of potential to just do some really memorable stuff, and we're totally open to suggestions on that. So definitely the old system was more percentage based, but I still hold to what I said on the cockpit, which is this new system will give us a lot more opportunity. We could use the percentage stuff, and we have some of those things in there too. But I think you see with some of those physical aspects, like 100% damage reduction on falling, or wow, that was a percentage, wasn't it? But you know what I mean.
Yeah. There are elements that are kind of mandatory too. There's a lot of balance that needs to take place, I think, and I think never mind. I'll go into that later. There's a question is asking.
Is this one you're thinking of to allow more customization? Weapons themselves can be changed in order to allow different roles. The weapon internal that cause Hellfire to be laser tracked rather than a home on target. It's a really good idea. We've thought about that as well, and that ties into a little bit of the possibility of what Chris mentioned with how we brought in the weapon upgrade system that was part of the progression that we ended up taking out. That was sort of a carryover from the old system. That is one of the things that we were possibly thinking about in that kind of a thing, is a weapon customization and potentially even moving it to something kind of more modular.
Kind of like MechWarrior.
Yes and no. I'm getting the sort of the shakes and the nods both at the same time.
Okay, is there anything in specific that anybody in chat wants to bring up that wasn't already addressed? The C-class ability is a big one.
I knew that was coming up. I knew that was coming up. What are you talking about?
These are fine. Dave, you want to talk about
it? Yeah, so Heavy Mech's been getting a lot of rework and stuff. Actually, in the build that you guys had, we recently found a bug in there where our settings and values were incorrectly portrayed in the game. That got fixed just earlier this week. So a lot of the ability upgrades and like the boosting speed and regular movement speed, they were all pretty wonked to begin with. In turret mode. We've been adjusting that a lot, giving more. One of the things that we're trying on this one is actually giving a lot more bonus of armor from front, but taking extra damage from the back. So there's like a high like reward versus risk type thing.
Right. That'd be interesting to test.
User disconnected from your channel.
I can answer that question from Caliber. If anyone from Hab 1 will be in Hab 2, the answer is no. Like I stated on the forums, we want to separate these two groups because we want to get true, unbiased feedback, unaltered feedback from the second group. It's a different group of people of different skill levels. We want their feedback to be separate and, completely. We want to try to do this in the most scientific manner possible in order to have true A/B feedback and A/B testing. We can't mix the groups.
Okay. Another thing with the C classes, just generalize. They in this current build that's coming out, they actually got a huge buff in armor. Specifically, the Brawler's default is 1050. So there's things that we're testing there. They get in general, like the heavies are getting a lot more armor, where light mechs are getting decreased heat generation so that they could fight them longer and stuff like that. So we're just trying a bunch of different things.
Yeah, so that goes back to differentiating between the mechs, because one of the problems we know about is really good players usually choose mech A's. I know that's not always the case, but generally mech A is a good mech to pick if you're a really skilled player. And we want to make C's just as viable and B just as viable at high level play. So it's one of the ways we're shifting focus off of that need for max speed and every speed being king in the game is increasing B and C armor and making them not nerfing mech A's but bringing the other classes into line with them.
Now, there's been a suggestion here regarding B's and C's. Won't new players that pick B and C mechs over A's generally be at a disadvantage when they try to go up to higher levels of play and then choose those A mechs? I think there was a suggestion to make B and C speeds a little bit faster in comparison to A, so A's would not be the only speed demon capable classes, or increasing just a little bit of the speed in general with regards to C and B mechs, instead of just
trying to think if, because we talked a little bit about the speed changes. There's still all the differences between A, B, and C. I mean, the light mechs, the A class have always been. Now let me regroup my thoughts there, because I started not answering your question and answering a different question. So
I don't know if we want to.
So we talked about differentiating the mech classes and stuff. So now we're able to actually differentiate even heavies from each other. Like one of the things that I wanted to test with the heavies right now is to pull the Vanguard to be more of the mobile heavy. So his speeds almost catch up to the mediums, same as the Raiders, where he catches up to the lights. But they get they lose out on some armor for that and other things. But there'll be some that kind of the speedy subclass of that class, I guess.
Okay.
And then more tankier versions of them too.
Very cool. Very cool. Oh, that's a big question. Yeah, Conquistador
Yeah, I just started reading that. Whoops. One second here. I keep the wrong button.
You lost it.
All right, I'll read this out. What exactly? It's for you, Chris. What exactly is your vision going forward for Hawken? How is it different? How different is this vision from the one you initially wanted? In short, where do you see Hawken doing in a few months?
Okay. By the way, Dave's a founder too, so as well. Let's start with what we initially wanted, where we're at now, and going forward. Does your vision for Hawken cater more towards next sim players or FPS players? It's definitely FPS players.
Disconnected from your channel.
I know we kind of took a step back on that and have one, but like we said, we're trying different things, and that's why this is a separate test group. FPS, it's always been an FPS, and we've always kind of struggled with making things feel heavy and feel like you're in a giant machine, but have the game be fun and fluid. And it's not an easy balance at all, as you guys know. So our initial vision for the game was just kind of a fun FPS that was slower than most FPSs, but not kind of just between a sim and an FPS. And what that did was kind of not appeal to sim players and not appeal to FPS players. So that's why we got the feedback we got in Have One from you guys about the speed. So that was kind of our last ditch attempt at making the game feel heavy and slow, and now we're just going to move forward with appealing to you FPS players. So, I mean, I think we did a good job of still making it feel like you're in a robot as best we can. Going forward, we just want the game to be fun, and we want you guys to like it. We want our base, our hardcore players, you guys that have been with us the whole time. We want you guys with us on this and playing. We want the changes we make to please you guys. We also have to broaden our player base, and that's why we're trying different things. But we just want the game to be fun. We don't want to lose you guys. That's why we're doing things like this conversation right now and taking your feedback seriously. And I hope you guys are just also willing to compromise on some of the changes we have to do to appeal to other players that don't like the game as it is.
Okay. I think we see that. A related question is Hawken still at some point, maybe in the future, and maybe not necessarily now, is Hawken still aiming to be esports viable?
I'm gonna just say it's not a focus right now, and I'm sorry if that disappoints people, but we need the game to be fun for all the people playing it, and not just the professional competitive players. And I know that's a lot of you guys, and I know it goes against what we focused on in the past, but we need to get our priorities straight, and it can't be the esports scene right now.
So
make a fun game that is balanced, that can then grow into a competitive scene or an esports scene. And it's just not ready to focus on that right now.
We want to build the player base. I mean, it's the reality. We want to build the player base and have it be even a bigger name and draw the people in. There's whole pages of documents on like what we can do for more a competitive aspect. But it's not that we can't get there. We need to bring the players in. We need to have them excited about the game and playing and having it be that like professionally competitive is secondary beyond bringing people in. Any plans to rework the radar screen?
Well, right before before we move on to that, Hobo, why is accessible and esports mutually exclusive? I think it's partially exclusive because of your Hab1's reaction to our Hab1 test. Competitive play wants a completely flat system where there are no advantages, or there's no the only variable between players is their skill level, and that's not appealing to a very wide base of players. That's appealing to competitive players. And again, it's funny. I worked on Firefall a few years ago, but it was a pretty different game before it came out. I haven't been keeping up with it, so I can't speak much to the Firefall argument.
Regarding sharpshooter, I know everybody wants to talk about the sharpshooter.
Yeah, we can actually comment on that.
Sharpshooter was OP in Hab1.
Please nerf.
Please nerf. Please nerf.
No, we don't need to nerf. We just need to fix it.
We said it.
Mutually exclusive.
They are totally different things. Dave's leaning in. He has that look on his. No, he's not.
There was a bug in Hab1 that made I think the Sabo perfectly accurate without being scoped in. That was not intended. Its damage is too high. We need to differentiate the sharpshooter. We need to separate sharpshooter's close quarter combat ability with its long range ability. It's too good at both. So I think you guys all agree power shot is too strong. So a little bit of a reduction in the damage coupled with maybe lower health. So it's not quite as viable in close quarters combat. I think it's probably a step in the right direction. I did read that whole thread about the sharpshooter, so keep giving us your suggestions and your opinions. And
I think the speed change amplified those issues with the dodge cooldown. It just made it a little easier to hit people. So the problem that we were seeing was only made worse by the speed.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was Wulong's thread and that I was talking about. And one good point you guys made was that the slowed down speed and the dodge cooldown really played to the sharpshooter's advantages of people not being able to get out of the way.
That brings up a point.
Probably alleviates some of the advantage the sharpshooter have just by us bringing the speed back up.
Yes, but even on live, sharpshooter is definitely very formidable, especially on maps like Frontline or Facilities.
It's not that's the speed isn't the only answer, but it's one factor. So, like I said, power shot and probably just things like health and movement speed. Maybe we need to look at tweaking those.
Yeah, in the current version, the sharpshooter moves a lot slower than the rest of the mediums, and it has lower health than all of them as well. I also nerfed the slug rifle. In current live, it's like 85 damage per shot. In the current version, it's down to 70.
So I think that's a decrease of 5 from Hab1, right? Or 75 on Hab1, something like that.
There's a big
change. Very nice.
Yeah, Bacon Avenger makes a good point regarding internals that are geared for getting a kill, avoiding a fight, or getting killed, like the internal that drops a bomb on death. That's only going to push the game into the COD category, I think. But we addressed
that. User left your channel.
Curzon wants to know about the radar scrambler. I don't think that was addressed.
Well, I think we can talk a little bit about some of those internals you don't like? Detonation device. Do you want to?
Yeah, detonation device was actually pretty absurd how much damage it did, and there was also some code in there that gave it a proximity distance that made it explode. Pretty much nothing you could do to avoid it. So we're adjusting that stuff.
I just think this is a testing run. This is a testing run for a lot of reasons, and I think internals like that don't necessarily belong in Hawken. I'm just speaking for both myself and a lot of the players that I've spoken to. And it's more of a COD thing. Giving direct rewards for kills or deaths. It's definitely very COD, very perk-oriented and snowball-y, almost.
The snowball comment just reminded me of some things I read on forums about the armor fuser, which gives you health on a kill or assist, and that's something we're going to look at because, if the whole team is utilizing that together, then everyone is getting a pretty big health buff for shooting at the same guy, and it's a little bit ridiculous. So, again, your feedback on that stuff is really helpful to us. So we're trying out a lot of different things, and we need to know what you guys perceive as broken, and we can fix those things. I think, Zacius, you actually suggested having the amount of health being based on how much damage you do, which is a pretty cool solution to that, if we decide to keep that in there.
I think so. I think personally, the optimal solution would be to remove those types of internals completely and phase in things like the air dodge, like the Air 180, and just give players more options rather than simple percent bonuses or increases or decreases. Or, you get a kill, you get more speed. Well, cool. Yeah. But yes, that would be a good start.
As we can't really talk about money specifics.
The radar scrambler question.
Radar scrambler. Actually, let's not talk about that. Okay, radar scrambler.
All right, plans to rework it. Scans. Once you get used to how it works, it's easy to follow your enemy through the scramble itself. But instead, having targets in the radar all the time, your enemy would show up. Disappear like normal targets would, or when you're hit by an enemy, the radar highlights a false target instead.
Yeah, and the height, your height revealing you on the radar scrambler is bad.
That's a problem.
It's funny, I think we had a more convincing radar scrambler originally, and I can't remember why it changed how it is now, but I guess we'll make a note.
Zamboni, make a note.
Zamboni is making a note.
So a question by Ivalwar that I'm actually curious about too is, do you guys have these servers right now to facilitate both hat groups playing at the same time, just in different rounds?
No, like I mentioned before in the post, we're going to be restricting Hab 1's access to the servers. So Hab 1, for right now, the testing phase is over. So we're not going to bring up another set of servers explicitly for Hab 2, which is not realistic. So we're going to take Hab 1, and they're going to, I'm going to archive the forum, so we'll still have that feedback. But everyone that's in Hab 1 is still part of the advanced battalion. So in future tests and future events, we will still be bringing this exact same group back on to test certain things. And like I said, this is the beginning, and we're working on really just ironing out everyone's feedback, what everyone what the groups respond with, and figuring out how best to utilize the different groups.
And also too is just also purely from a technical level. I mean, yeah, we can have multiple servers up, but the problem is right now we have the live build, and then we also have a HAB build. If we had another HAB build on top of that, that's 3 builds that we're maintaining in a live environment, which not only obviously has cost associated with it, but there's also just the technicality of 3 different databases, 3 different builds, managing all at once. So, you know, maybe that's something that we can switch over to at a later time. But I'd hate to have a situation where someone could potentially have 3 versions of Hawken on their hard drive. So maybe that's something that we can, you know, do later to have that be a little bit more seamless, to be able to bounce back and forth between different builds. But at the moment, it's live and a HAB build.
Okay.
I think we can just go ahead and say that you guys are all going to be back for the next round of HAB after this one coming up. After HAB 2, I think we're going to have you guys back and play with everything we're talking about today, and everything that we've adjusted based on this weekend's feedback. So
actually, we have what we were talking about and what the current plan is, or at least what we're thinking is after HAB 2, after this group has a chance to get their time with it, just bring everyone back into a single group. So there is method to our madness. There is, and Zamboni, there's I think a question for you.
Yeah, Hobo, to the archiving of the forums, I do want to archive them eventually, just because I don't want to have to necessarily keep up with 2 HAB forums at once. It's difficult for me to split my attention like that and really focus. I really want to be able to focus on HAB 2's feedback, just like I had complete attention to y'all with HAB 1. So I don't have to archive them right away, but I will. You know, if you want to get your feedback in, if there's some things you've been working on, you still want to make known, go ahead and get those posted in the next couple of days, and I'll make sure, you know, the team will still have access to the forums. They'll be able to see your feedback. But for the most part, after, you know, in the next couple of days, I will be archiving that, just for my sanity.
Conquistor is asking if you can clone yourself, so you can have 2 Zamboni working on these
I don't
issues.
do that. No, I wish. Well, I don't know. Some people have suggested that, but I think 2 of me would get a little annoying to people.
Sorry.
So there was a question there. Response time to issues at the beginning of HAB 1, including issues that persisted, felt like they had a rather slow response time. Start at the beginning of the weekend, handled better in the future. Can you type out just sort of what were you talking about? Bugs? Were you talking about just connectivity issues? Were you talking about responses to feedback? Which did you, or just general communication in general? I'm curious as to what that was. Connectivity, server browser, broken, quick match. Okay. No, communication I thought was lackluster. There were some bugs with the game. Some of those things that we didn't always know, or didn't know that they were issues until they went live. We had, you had to work to get into the game. There were some things that were just flat out broken. You saw when you went to the server browser, you saw more servers than you could actually join. And we know that. We know that was a problem. There were a lot of changes that went in just that week alone, actually days before we went live. That all had to do with matchmaking and reservation system, and a lot of those things kind of went belly up a little bit at the last moment, and that wasn't really known until it actually went live. We started getting the feedback. So we tried to keep up to date with the known issues and workarounds for wherever we could. But it's unfortunate that we did have some problems with that. But that's part of. We would rather have get this out to everyone and start getting the feedback. What I will say is the build is significantly better in that area. I think sometimes in some areas it's a little surprising how much progress we can make in certain areas. So you'll see a lot more improvements. Or a significant difference actually since that very first build we started off with, and the next time you get your hands on a HAB build.
I think
let's see. Selection for HAB 2 is already complete. and there are a variety of issues, or I should say, there are a variety of players and criteria, I should say, that were picked.
Yeah, my criteria is a little bit. It's mainly just black magic. Like I really just, it's just, I have a very complicated formula that I draft up, and I summon a few spirits.
He's actually a warlock.
Yeah, I'm not a witch. That's incorrect. Warlock would be more accurate. So that's,
So not a witch.
Not a witch.
All right.
Can't be burned. Shouldn't be burned. Please don't burn me. But I'm definitely utilizing some forces beyond my control to pick you. So you should feel very fortunate to be in the hat, because I'm braving some dark stuff.
All right.
So, yeah.
Really answer that question. Have one, and it was basically our most active players and the players that spend the most time in the game, which ended up being you guys.
Right. For like individual players, like I don't know if I feel comfortable how I discussing how I select individual players, but ultimately, we want to go with Have One. We wanted to go for the most active people on the forums, our most hardcore group. Have Two is going to be a lot more casual players. Players that still play a lot, but maybe are not as highly skilled as you are. Whenever I am going through the process of picking individual people that I really want to be in the hat, a lot of it has to do with their constructive, the nature of their feedback in the past, their presence on the forums, if they've been a positive influence, and they've given good feedback and just been an overall positive influence on the community, that helps a lot. That really does influence my decision quite a bit.
What's the new man? Tell us the new man. Dead. Leak it.
I think it was actually posted in the, I don't know if you guys saw the teaser image I posted today, but I think someone actually blew our new mech. It's the Lumberjack. Do you guys see that? Like someone just totally leaked it. Chainsaws and everything.
We're not ready to talk about the new mech
Right.
yet.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, hold on a second. Let me. That's a good question. Let me actually just hit freeze on that. So actually answer that. It's not balance related in terms of future vision. Players affect world Hawken persistent level, bring persistent both in game and within the transmedia realm. Persistence, great player. It's no apologies. It's we love forward thinking. It's something that we talked about a long time ago. Actually, one of our concept artists, Miles, who's been with the game forever, basically. Even way back, like a year and a half ago, we did some mock-ups of a global map for the game. So we actually have those mock-ups are global maps so that you can you can impact different areas of the game. So basically, the world is persistent outside of individual matches, and it's something that's more sort of like on a global scale. So we've definitely thought about that stuff, and I think persistence is actually really important to keep people engaged and interested in what's going on. We have some cool features also coming to the website, which hopefully will be really good also to sort of keep you engaged with Hawken, even though you're not playing Hawken. So pick a side, processing that we've definitely thought about that. We've thought about that stuff. So we need to get some of these core features done and have everyone feel good about where the game is, and we have a lot of cool stuff to do. And persistence is definitely something we've talked about.
What was the Cupcake Vanguard question someone asked about? Furry.
No checking.
Go. He wants us to answer the furry monster. Wants us to answer the.
1 second. What was it? Oh, can you answer the Cupcake Vanguard question?
What is?
Sorry. Which question was that?
I think it's the one. Is the Vanguard going to be available to all players now? but not the cupcake with the new update?
Yes.
Okay.
But the cupcake is still special.
Excellent.
It's cupcake-orific.
Will we be seeing more pastry-oriented mechs in the future?
That's a good question. No comment. Priorities.
I want the chocolate pancake, and you can make its turret mode. Well, I mean, give it the current turret mode. There you go.
In the event of a faction-based system, would there also be a neutral system that I could join? I'd be a neutral player.
We actually have more than just 2 factions defined in the Hawk and Lure. So
excellent.
More to come.
Not really far enough along on that.
We're a little ways on that, yeah.
All right, so let's. Is there any big concern with this? Because we do have to wrap it up at some point. We want to make sure all your concerns are addressed. So, do you want to? Is there any burning questions we skipped over that everyone agrees need to be addressed?
Forum integration into the client. To repeat what he said, any questions that were skipped over or have yet to be addressed, please ask them now, and they'll do their best.
We don't have any immediate plans for forum integration, but we do want to, we are thinking about ways to reward players who are, good for helping others and, being sort of pillars of the community. So no immediate plans for integration at the moment.
So, Caliber, new game modes are going to get tested out in HAB first.
Yeah.
So we'll get people's feedback on new game modes. New mechs, new game modes, fixes to Siege, which is going to be a big priority for us coming up. It won't be immediately, but soon.
Yeah, it seems like you guys are forming the basis for the next set of updates. Once this current system is all tuned up and ready to go, then there's just a bunch of rooms of content.
So let me just kind of quickly summarize what we went over here as far as your feedback. Vertical progression, we're listening to you guys and we're toning it down, not in the same way we did in open beta, which is problematic, but hopefully giving people enough incentive to want to level their mechs and stick around, but without unbalancing the game. And I think everyone agreed that open beta, the optimizations weren't interesting, but they were fair, and we're going for fair but interesting. So speed, obviously you guys are very vocal about speed, and we've hopefully addressed that to your liking. You guys will get to try it out in an upcoming HAB, which will be after HAB 2. Tuning system, basically our direction on that is to create class differentiation and in the tuning system. We got a lot of good feedback from you guys on how to do that, so that's awesome. We just want to be clear that our goal is to have differentiation in the classes, and hopefully we can do that in a way that you guys are all on board with. So again, you'll be part of the testing soon on that. Back to speed, acceleration we talked about. One thing that we didn't mention, collision. You probably saw a step backwards on that, and I had to do with some optimizations we made in the game after optimizing our assets, which then kind of regenerated collision that we didn't intend. And we're just going through that and trying to clean it up again, so bear with us on that. And I think we didn't really touch on low time to kill, which was
that's a good point.
Lower health values in HAB 1. And those have been brought back up to values that we think you guys will be happy with, and you'll get to try that out as well. And there'll also be more differentiation in the health between the mechs, A, B, and C, to kind of give B's and C's a little bit more of a fighting chance versus the speed of the A classes. And just in between subclasses, there'll probably be a little bit more differentiation in the health. So yeah, that's kind of my summary, just from what I remember talking about.
It seems like a huge issue with Hab 1 at least, but hitboxes seemed a lot larger. I don't know if there was actually anything done there.
There should not have been a change in the hitbox size. I do recall us having a problem where the hitboxes, again, were busted on turret mode, and some issues with that we're fixing. I have not heard of the hitboxes being larger. We can look into that. They're not supposed to be.
Yeah. We can't have the hitboxes match the actual mech model like that. It's just no. That's a different story.
Yeah, that would kind of destroy a lot of the customization opportunities currently available. So I can see that.
And a lot of the collision issues that we have are unfortunately. Not that it's a bad engine, but some of them are engine and physics related that tie into that, unfortunately. So a lot of the collision and what some people are getting caught on the environment is it's definitely something that we're still working on. Acceleration. It's yeah, exactly. It is tied with physics and some of the engine. So there's a lot of workarounds that we have to do. It isn't necessarily like something on our end. It's something that we sort of have to work around. I'll sort of put it that way.
Regarding acceleration, I know that was spoken about in the very beginning of this little meeting. Has walk speed and run speed acceleration been modified and increased? Because there was a huge issue in the beginning of the HAB. There still is, I think.
Yeah, I think we answered that. I think we covered that.
Yeah. Okay.
Major changes during HAB 2. Oh, Red Van wants to know. There will be some. We've talked about some of the changes that are in there already. But if you're thinking that it's like some brand new UI or some new brand new, whatever, that's a totally different version of the game. It's not that at all. It's not that at all. And eventually, in a little bit of time, you'll be back on that build as well.
And you guys are going to be in another round of testing based on all this stuff, just not this weekend.
Right.
You are going to be tested. We're taking suggestions from you. We're doing another round of testing that don't necessarily have all those suggestions. We have a build that does have those the changes we're making, and you guys will play that build in the near future.
There is a bug right now with some of the hovering with the health and boost bars. Some of that is intentional. Depends on where you're seeing it, but there's a little bit of a bug with its location at the moment. We're just we've gone quiet. We're just watching the chat. So yeah, I think Chris summarized a lot of the bullet points of what we talked about, but and we do kind of have to wrap stuff up. But want to make sure that we any of those hot topics, any of those bullet points that we can at least speak to.
Are you going to be at practice time?
I think that about does it. Yeah, that does it for me at least. Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
PAX Prime, I'm actually not too sure about. I think we'll be there, but not in the capacity we were in the past with a huge booth, or we never had a huge booth, but we had a booth with the gameplay. Well, I don't think we're gonna go all out for that. We're just kind of trying to hunker down and work on the game and not go out and
not work on the game.
So yeah, guys, thanks so much for hanging in there with us and for giving us your input and for testing the game. I know sometimes it probably feels like a job, but it means a lot that you care enough to do it and type up it takes a lot of time to type up all your input and post them. And we do read it, so just know that it is worthwhile for you to do that. And we appreciate it.
When do you think we will be able to play it again? Roughly, I know you can't give us exact times.
Live is on right now. No, we don't have an exact time yet because we're just going to see how feedback goes, basically. So we don't have a specific date. We have something in mind, but we need to see how this rollout goes and see what that sort of round of feedback is and decide what we want to do for there. But that being said, we do want to have that other round and bring Have One players back into the mix.